The changes we noticed early on were our son talking to himself, or apparently talking to himself, becoming obsessed with like the world ending on 12/12. I was really obsessed with that. Convinced that 2012 was going to be a horrible, horrible year. Those were the early signs. Other than that, he was more or less himself. What happened when we observed those changes, we were scared. We didn't know what was going on. Our son was convinced that there was nothing wrong. He lost most of his friends. They kind of shied away because of his strange behavior. And that's what we noticed. Sadness, love, bewilderment, felt like we were lost. Like we didn't have a clue of what was going on. There were also other experiences, but majority has been emotional, just an emotional train ride. Engaging with the EASA team was like we had fallen off of a ship and were drowning, and somebody threw us a life preserver. I don't know how else to describe it. I mean, it was life-saving for us. What the EASA team did to help us trust them was, number one, showed us that there was people that cared. And then made us realize that there was other people out there experiencing the same problems that we were experiencing, and we weren't alone. And that those two items in themselves started the trust process at that point. The goals we were working on with our son were kind of twofold. We were working on getting him steady employment, and him finding steady employment. And also he's a musician, so music is huge to him, and he's trying to make an album, so we're kind of working towards that. And it's also part of his therapy, so it's good for that as well. The support that has been helpful for us in achieving those goals, a lot of it, I've got to throw family group in here because it's a great place to kind of kick around ideas, and that's what you do, really. Whether it's somebody's problem that they're having or just something that maybe the group is discussing. The thing that was most helpful for us with family group was the fact that everybody there is dealing with kind of the same thing. There's no shame, there's no holding back, maybe at first, but as people get to know each other. And so it's just this bonding experience, and you can go there and know that there's going to be people that care about what you're going through, regardless about what everybody else thinks, your extended family or your friends or whatever. And it builds a support group. And it's awesome. We also found a lot of help with the EASA program itself in job search and helping with different aspects of that. And so the whole process was pretty good. The biggest barrier that we found in getting services was knowing where they were, or what they were, what even was going on. So I have to say the biggest barrier was knowledge. We had no knowledge and had no clue about what our son was going through. And because of that, we were little or no help. And that's it. Knowledge is the key. If people know about it, they're more aware. We were fortunate in the fact that the first time that our son went to the hospital, we were introduced to EASA and the EASA program, and that was huge to us. And it gave us someplace to go and somebody to talk to. Up until that point, we had no one, and that was difficult. Negative assumptions about the situation, yes. I think that's all we had at first was negative assumptions about the situation. We didn't know what was going on. We knew our son was ill, but we didn't know what to do to help him. And we didn't know how to make him We couldn't make him get help. So what did we do? Those assumptions changed over time because we realized that it wasn't all just bad. There was good in there as well. Our son was now getting the help that he needed. And we were getting help, and we were understanding more about what was going on so we could be more help to him. And that's something that's a progress that is still going on 2.5 years later and will continue to go on. If I were to give advice to a new professional, just starting in the field, I don't know that I could give them any, but I guess what I would say is remember that everyone's different and treat people as individuals. These people, these kids, we call them kids, my wife and I, but that are affected with mental illness, or anybody that is, feels like they're half human anyway. They're ostracized and their friends a lot of times go away. And they need somebody to treat them like a real person. And that is what I would tell a new professional. We helped with the engagement by, we started going to EASA programs. And our son he went, but he wasn't real cooperative at first. And part of the time he went simply because he had to. During that part, he was very little cooperation. But by continuing to go and talking about what we talked about in group, and it actually made it to where he could talk to us a little bit better about his illness, which is hard. It's hard for these kids to talk to their loved ones about what's going on. They don't want to tell anybody. And it did help with that, and that was a big help in his recovery. We set boundaries with how we were involved by, he's an adult, and some decisions are his, and he has to live with the results of those decisions. Some decisions we felt that we would make. And there was just some rules and regulations that he had to abide by. And so that's the boundaries that we set, and we tried to stay within that. And sometimes it's hard. And the hardest thing, which I found out, is when you set a boundary, you have to keep it. If you're in a crisis situation, call 911. After we learned about EASA was our main contact. We had police at our house 4 times in February of 2012. And after the first time, I had learned about EASA. And so the second, third, and fourth times, we were handing the police cards about EASA, and they should have been telling us. But no matter when I called, there was times that I called at 1 and 2 in the morning, and the phone was always answered because they knew that we were in crisis, and somebody was there on the phone to talk us through it and help us through the situation, and it was awesome. What was helpful for me to understand about what my son was experiencing was the fact that even though he had told me, and I had been told, he kind of told me what was going on, and of course, as a dad, I'm like, yeah, right. You know, you've played too many video games, you've done this and that and the other thing, and once I realized that the things he was telling me and seeing to him were real, to us, and we'd been told that they were real, but we didn't really believe it, I guess. Once you understand that those things that they're seeing and hearing and experiencing are real to them, real as life itself, it gives you a whole different perspective on what to do and how to handle a situation. And that was the biggest help to me in dealing with my son's illness. How EASA was most helpful for me? They were there. I don't know how else to expand on that. They were there when we needed them, and they gave the kind of care that we have become accustomed to and expect and are sadly disappointed in when we had to leave the EASA program into other avenues of care. The standard of quality at EASA was so superior that we wish everybody had the same plan.